Welcome to another edition of Over the Top Sports. I'm Mark Panis.
And I'm Michael Broughton.
Today, Michael, let's talk about the difference in governance between North American and European professional sports leagues. You know, Michael, in North America, the leagues are centralized not just commercially to a very high degree, but also from a governance standpoint. And what that does is it allows the worst run clubs, the most poorly capitalized clubs, to not only survive, but really operate at a pretty high level. Contrast that with the biggest European leagues, where while a lot of the commercial operations can be centralized at the league level, a lot are not. And from a governance standpoint, they're certainly not. And so you get the biggest clubs have really unbridled opportunity to cut amazing commercial deals, to create international brands for themselves and so forth. And the smallest, worst run clubs are really left, quite frankly, to die. I mean, they literally disappear from the league each year in the relegation process. If you were an owner today looking at an investment into one of these leagues, which would you choose? And also, where do you think it's going in the future?
Well, one of the things I think you need to look at is who's the commissioner or CEO of the league, right? Because wherever there is a strong commissioner or CEO, you tend to find the governance model is just that much tighter, right? They can hold the bigger clubs and bigger owners together in a more uniform way. From a revenue perspective, I'd certainly look at the European model. You're not handcuffed so much. The media rights is sold generally from a centralized perspective. Even Real Madrid and Barcelona, which used to sell their own media rights, have come back into the fold on that. And I think there is a collective thought that that's the best way for that big piece of the pie. But other than that, it's a race, right? Who can do the best deals? Man United have been phenomenal. Barcelona, Real Madrid, all the big clubs have followed the same track. From a return on investment perspective, actually, think about it this way. If you're Newcastle United and you're available for roughly 300 million, that's a 1.7 times multiple on, your revenue of about 170, 175 million. An equivalent in the US making 230, 240 million is the Atlanta Hawks. So, they're being valued by Sportico at 1.5 billion, a 6.5 times return, right? Even Man United at the moment is valued about 2.5 billion on 500 million roughly of revenue. So that's only 5 times, and they're the best and the biggest. So Warren Buffett's theory of the first rule of investing is don't lose your money. I think I know where I'd go, but what about you, Mark?
I am not going to cross the wise teachings of Mr. Buffett. I'm going to stick with what he has to say from an investment standpoint. But I would tell you, if you're going to give me the keys to a club, the idea of taking a club in a European league with all the upside that's there and being able to drive value and drive revenue out in that scenario is really, really appealing. It just has to be the right club. Right? I mean, the reality is that in these decentralized models in Europe, a Derby or a Burnley or even a Lille is really going to be a club within a certain bandwidth of success, of revenue, of international recognition. It just is, right? Absent going on, a decade-long tear winning titles with significant frequency. And you just don't necessarily need that in the US. Look at the Green Bay Packers, right? They've survived for, decades in a market the equivalent of a Derby, right? And they've been able to do it because of the centralization of revenue and the centralization of operations.
And I think, Mark, if you take someone like a Lille, they've been honest about it, right? They can't compete on a commercial perspective with the big boys like Paris Saint-Germain. Oh. So they were honest. They're like, we're a trading model, right? Mm-hmm. We will borrow money and we will buy and sell players and we will trade the players. And that is the way we can compete and stay competitive. Now, if you're a small team in the NBA, you don't have to go that way. Right, you know what your minimum revenue is going to be each year. Right, like it's a good place to be.
Right, and it's interesting. Golden State would have been considered 15 years ago to be a quote unquote small club in the NBA, right? And because of the draft, because of the revenue sharing, look what's happened over the last decade and a half, and that success on the court has translated into a brand new building that is an absolute revenue engine whenever we get to the other side of COVID-19. Well, Mike, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to diving in much deeper on this topic. I think it's a great one to explore. Please, out there, you join us. We have a Clubhouse show every week. Love you to join us and participate in the conversation with us. And look for more episodes of OTT Sports on the IMM website and on our YouTube channel. See you next time we go over the top.